So you have to now realize, how can I be employed and be a millionaire mentally? It all started with me believing that I could be a millionaire. Because when you go to work, all you believe is what you are by the end of your salary. But I can't think about Verizon paying me $100,000. I have to be like, I'm worth $2-3 million. This job is what's holding me back. But what I got to do is take my job salary, because the job is my first business partner. The job is investing in me to take this money and go do something with it and stop coming back begging a job for a handout.
Hey business owners, what if I helped you get access to $50,000 in business funding for $1 a day? Would you be interested? Inside of my Credit Mastery community, you're going to be getting exclusive access to our in-depth training program that's worth tens of thousands of dollars to give you the exact strategies you need on how to restore your credit and on how to properly structure your business. You're also going to be getting access to a financial consultant with over a decade of experience in the funding space that'll help you reach your financial goals in half the time it would take if you were to do it on your own. And we're going to be giving you 2 coaching calls every week that'll give you the exact banks you need to go to get access to $50,000 to $100,000 in business funding. This is the same community that helped Pat get access to $50,000 in funding from Chase, help Alvin get access to $8,000 in funding from Amex, help Matt boost his personal credit score by 150 points, and help Donna delete a bankruptcy from her credit report. So if you're interested, click the link above or below this video to join now, and we'll see you on the other side of success. Let's go, family.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Marvin Francois Show, your number one source for all things business, finance, and investing. And today is a very special day because our guest today is an investor, entrepreneur, mentor, coach, public speaker, and real estate expert extraordinaire. To date, our guest has done multiple millions in the real estate space and has leveraged his expertise to teach others all around the world on how they can do the same. Whether he's on stage in front of hundreds educating aspiring investors on how to build wealth in real estate, or teaching on platforms just like this so that viewers like you can have the tools, education, and mindset needed to identify your path to prosperity, the value that this man provides to anyone looking to win in real estate is proof why his success in the space is not coincidence, it's confirmation. And today, he's here to do more of the same. Ladies and gentlemen, from Brooklyn, New York, I'm here with the one, the only, my guy, Mr. Storm Leroy. What's going on, brother? How are you?
That man good.
I appreciate it, brother. How are you, man?
I'm blessed and highly favored, brother.
Listen, I could say the same, and if I was any better, I'd probably be you.
Oh, man. I'm a reflection of you.
I appreciate it, man. I'm excited to have you on here. This is going to be a very fun sit down for me. Yes. I've been following you for a good amount of time. I'm all about sitting down with individuals that are about empowering our people, about wealth building, about financial literacy and financial freedom. And if I'm saying I'm about all these things and I haven't had you on my platform, I'm doing my audience a disservice. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. I hope you are as well. Of course, I did an okay job introducing you, but nobody knows Storm Leroy better than the man himself. So for those who aren't familiar, let's get them familiar. Who exactly is Storm Leroy?
Man, Storm Leroy is a man from Brooklyn, New York, who's experienced a lot, had the very, very profound moments in my life that I can have stories from, like my grandmothers, my great uncles about life, where my family has come from, right out of slavery, understanding what that was like, helping develop and shape my mind, and watching my dad grow up coming from the South, understanding that he wanted more, and in turn he was teaching me the valuable lesson of demanding more and using my mind as a catalyst and not my body to work. And he was teaching me that through watching him do hard work. Learning a lot about history. I love history. I love books. I love our history specifically because when you know it, you witness the steps when they're trying to repeat it, and you know how to bob and weave to stay away from it. And I call myself a realist speaker, not a motivational speaker, because I speak real.
I love it. You mentioned someone just now in your short soliloquy. You talked about your dad, and I think that would be a great place to start. If we go back to your early beginnings, you have a story that you've shared that I really connected to from your childhood, where one night your father comes home from work. He's sitting at a dinner table. He's covered in dirt all the way up to around his chest area. And you're taking his boots off, and he shares something with you that completely changed your mindset from that moment moving forward. Can you share that story with the audience?
Yeah. Actually, my dad, who worked Brooklyn, New York, helping to build Woodhull Hospital. He was a day laborer. You know, he was one of those guys where you see them outside and they would get handpicked to do work back in the 70s. And my father was a very big man, very strong. He was digging the ditches. So a ditch collapsed on him while he was actually working the site.
Wow.
So they carried him home, brought him into the kitchen and sat him down at the kitchen table, and he would have me take his boots off whenever he could catch me because I always try to avoid him. So in this day, when I seen him carrying him in and sat him down at the table, I went into the house and I looked around the corner and seen him at the table in pain, and he called me to take his boots off. So while taking his boots off, I noticed his eyes getting real watery, you know what I mean? So I'm trying to comprehend what's going on. So he says to me, do you know why I have you take my boots off? And it was sort of like this superhero's, like his origin story. He's finally going to tell me what he was creating and building in me. So I says, no. He says, because I don't never want to see you go through what I'm going through. And you would imagine when you see your father working hard every day, he's instilling in you the lesson of what hard works look like and the accomplishments from working hard.
Right.
He was doing the exact opposite. He was showing me that hard work destroys you, breaks your body down, and it only could get you so far. Showing me to use my mind and intelligence to get where I want to go because my body won't get it done.
What's interesting to me about that story is you actually come from a very large family, a family of 10, if I'm correct.
Yeah, my mother had 10 children. My father meeting my mother after, he had 5 children. So it was like a total of about 15 altogether, including my father, but my mother had 10 children.
I'm curious, and what would be interesting to me about that story is if you were the oldest, it would kind of just make sense because, like, okay, most parents, they pour everything they can into usually the first child, and then it passes down over to all the other ones. But you weren't the first child. I think you're somewhere in the middle.
I'm middle.
What do you think it was that your father saw in you that of all of his children, he poured that kind of life lesson into you specifically?
I was very inquisitive. You know, even though I loved to play, you know, as kids, sports and stuff like that, I still was inquisitive with electronics. You know, I'm gonna take you guys back, like Commodore 64. I know you don't remember stuff like this. And the Tandy computer. This is when they had floppy disks.
Okay.
Like I'm not talking small floppy. I'm talking about like 8-inch floppy disks. I think it was about 4 inches, 8 inches. And when I finally seen what a computer was, I was amazed. You know, and I wanted to take it apart. I wanted to learn it. So once I got into that, I started being inquisitive to my dad, and I was like, I wanted an electronic toy. I didn't want board games. And for him, it was like, what? What is that? Like, it was new. Like, electronics was new. Coleco and all this stuff going back then. And I wanted that. And once I did get that, I actually took it apart. And I had questions. And even with my mother, she's seen it in me also because, you know, I come from a church background from the South. My mother and father from the South. So sitting in church, all the kids would run around and be playing. And I would be sitting there watching the preacher preach, trying to figure out what's going on. What are they talking about? What is this whole Jesus thing about?
Right.
So, you know, I literally would ask my mother questions. And then I never forget when I got to that point of where I said, who's God? Who's Jesus? And I started reading. And the more and more I got deep into it, the more and more it started to expand my brain beyond what kids would do. Same with my dad. And he looked and I asked him, you know, this was one of the triggering things too. I said, I want a bank account. I think I was like 8 years old, and I wanted to have a bank account. And they were like, all right.
This kid's, he's a little different.
It's a little different.
Yeah.
And I really had him sitting down with me trying to develop the bond. But to go on about that a little bit more, I never forget the time when my dad, he called me downstairs one day to turn the TV. Like, it wasn't no remote controls. You were the remote control as a kid.
Facts.
So my father would be like, you know, he called me and come downstairs. And I come down, I'll be turning the TV. But wait, I'm standing there by the TV, turn again, and I'll find something he want to watch. So it just so happened that the basketball game was on. And he said, okay, so I'm getting ready to go back outside, go back play with my brothers. He says, no, sit down. And I'm sitting down, he's like, man, that you know, Bernard King, and he's trying to talk to me about the sports. But I didn't want to hear it because I wanted to play with my brothers. Remember, I'm like 8, 9 years old. But I understood as I got older, that was my father's way of trying to bond with me.
Yeah.
Because my father was from the South, and my father's my grandfather had my dad working literally at 8 years old cutting logs. You got to realize my grandfather, they come from a time where his father's in Jim Crow, and in one generation is slavery.
Yeah.
And I always like to remind us, I would like for you to take a minute to think, how many generations are you away from slavery? Because my oldest brother remembers signs that say colored only, blacks only, like whites only, colored only. You're not that far away from slavery. Right? No matter how much the media puts it, it makes you think this way. So once I realized he was trying to build a bond with me as I got older, I said, man, that must have been so awkward for my dad because he didn't never have that time to sit down and talk with his father. But he's trying to do that with me to spend time with him, and I realized that was something that we were deprived of for many years. And this leads to why we are like this as a people. And father-son relationships are so hard. And you will hear us say more than anybody else, I don't want to be like my dad was.
Yeah.
I don't want my kids to grow up like how I grew up.
Yep.
That's really from our culture.
Yep.
Because really our father, our grandfather comes from that situation.
So going back to those early beginnings, like you said, you were much different from a lot of your siblings, a lot more inquisitive, asking certain questions, talking about a lot of different things that they weren't focused at, especially at the young age of 8. Let's fast forward a little bit.
Yeah.
We have some context around your beginnings and where you come from, and the mindset shift that happened when your father taught you that the true way of building wealth and the true way of building success wasn't a result of putting your body through labor and hard work, right? It's through this. Let's go now to 1996. 1996, if I'm not mistaken at the time, you're much older now, right? You're working at Verizon full-time.
I started working Verizon.
Making some solid money.
I was making no money starting at Verizon. No pay, continue, but no, not then.
Okay, so paint the picture for me then. What did life look like for you at that point in ultimately getting you introduced to real estate?
Working at Verizon, when I first started, I was I'm on probation. I'm making minimum wage what Verizon would make. So 1996, after 2 weeks, I probably had like $245 a week of a salary, so that's what I was making a week. And what really got me into real estate was the fact that during the 70s, living in the brownstone that we lived in on Kosciuszko Street in Brooklyn, New York, many people in my community, including my dad, didn't have the opportunity to buy our house. There was the red line. Even though the Housing Fair Act came into play in 1968, I think it is, where the discrimination couldn't happen, they still was discriminating. You couldn't get loans in the inner city. You couldn't borrow money. You couldn't buy houses. You couldn't do shit. Like, they would give you money to borrow to go buy a Cadillac because they knew that would depreciate. Like, you get money for stuff like that.
Right.
But to start a business, to buy a home, you couldn't get that in the hood. And that was one of the passions that, my father wished that we could have done to really own a house. I watched my father fix our boiler every winter. It would break until the point where it broke where he couldn't fix it. And we didn't own the house. But the owner of the house was a Jewish man, but he would always send a black guy to always come collect the rent. So the assumption that it was a black guy owner, but he wasn't. He just was, the one to come collect the rent.
Right.
So our boiler was broke literally. In my house, we went without heat and hot water for winter for maybe about 7-8 years as a kid, but that shit was normal. You know what I mean? Like, I tell these kids now, don't understand. Like, you try growing up and you don't have no heat or hot water consistently every single winter, boiling water in buckets and shit like that. So once Verizon came along, I was hustling before Verizon, not drug hustling. Like, I was into tech. So one of my guys was into computer hacking, and he knew I was into computers. He told me about it. So if people remember the cell phone days with the gray flip phones, that's probably a little bit before your time, but the gray flip phones were hacked. I was part of that group where we was going around and giving people free cell phone service. And when you see a lot of rappers, if you know the Biggie video Warning, he had a big phone. That was one of the phones. Teddy Riley and these guys, we would fly all out to give all the rappers phones, and I knew all these guys. And that was because I was heavy into tech. Like, the whole thing about it was hacking. And once that was done, once I knew about hacking, that's what piqued my interest. And I made money, but the bad thing is, when you're making that kind of money, you can't spend that kind of money because there's no, how would you explain you buying big houses and doing shit like that? So what happened to me was making that kind of money. I had me a little inconspicuous Honda Accord. I was driving one day, Marcus Garvey Boulevard, and the feds pulled me over. They pulled me over and they said to me, "We don't want you." Because you got to understand something. I want to explain to you. It wasn't a crime hacking cell phones because there wasn't no such thing as digital crimes back then. Right. It was a cell phone, new technology. Hacking the EIN numbers was like, it wasn't no crime.
Right.
But they were like, "We don't want you. We want the other person, blah, blah, blah," because he had a bigger plan that I didn't have no clue that he was doing, but he was planning something big. Anyway, they said, "We're going to let you go, but you're going to get that letter from Verizon again, and we recommend you took that job." Like, they was watching me because I turned down the job the first time I got the letter. They said, "You're going to get that letter again, take the job." And damn sure, when I got that letter, I took that goddamn job. But that also allowed me to now be able to say, I want to buy a house. So the little bit of money I did have stashed away still, that allowed me to be able to have an excuse where I got that money from to get a down payment to buy my first house.
From what I understand, you purchased your first house in 99.
1999.
Brownstone for
1999, the number, another summer. Sound of the fucking drummer.
There you go. Purchased your first house in 1999. It was a brownstone for around $350,000, if I remember correctly.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. You get your first brownstone. What does now life look like? You officially own your first official piece of real estate. What does life look like at that point?
Work. I had a job, man. I had a job. Like, you understand, I understood my dad was teaching me, but I was getting up going to somebody else's job. And when I did go to that job, my brain was telling me, "You're only going to be here 2 years. I'm only going to be here a few years." Because, I'm fluent in this field of tech, and I'm around these people who making moves. I know all the rappers. I know everybody. I was a rapper myself. So I was like, I'm only going to take this job because this is what they forced me to do. But then I started talking to people with jobs who were there. I'm like, "How long you been here?" "I've been here 25 years. I got 15 more years left." "Oh, I've been here for this much time. Got this much year left." "Yeah, man, my pension is this. I'm going to do that." And I'm like, damn, maybe I can do the same thing. You start to become what you're mostly around.
Yeah.
If you hang around a bunch of assholes, you're going to become an asshole. And I started to become a worker. That mindset started kicking in. And then when I had the real estate, one thing I did do when I got it, I gutted the whole place out. After I gutted, talking piping floors, and I'm in the basement. From the basement, looking all the way up 3 stories to the roof. I said, man, my dad would be real proud of me if he could see this moment.
Yeah.
Because this is something he wanted to do. But when I looked up and I said to myself, I'm never doing this again because this was work. I had to be there with the contract. I had to be there to do this. But once that place was done, one of the worst things that could have ever happened to me in real estate, and not to deter anybody else who wants to get in real estate, but you got to understand something. I became a landlord. Those stories need to be shared between more real estate investors to other people who want to become real estate investors. Because that's when you really understand the meaning of work. Other people telling you what to do. I already had a foreman. So I had tenants telling me, "Oh, I'm not going to pay you for this. Oh, I'm not here. Oh, they break this, break that. Oh, come fix this, come." And I'm like, yo, what the hell is this? So I actually stopped buying real estate because of having tenants. It was out-of-state real estate that changed my life. The real estate market here, it was great back then in the 90s, but understand something too. I still have one of the brownstones. It's worth almost $2 million. But nobody knew Brooklyn real estate was going to be worth that much. I bought a property $350. Now it's almost $2 million. Nobody had a clue. The hood was one of the most underrated, scariest places in the world.
Yeah.
But when you bought something, and if you could hold out this long, you did a great thing. But now just jumping into something else, those times are over. The days of my story of buying real estate and buying a brownstone and having it for 20 years worth $2 million is over. All that, like the mindset of now individuals who are getting into real estate, because I don't want my story to be a reflection of other people to sit there and say, I'm going to do what he did. You can't do what I did anymore. You can't buy $40,000 properties in Alabama. I bought 15 in Birmingham, and now say I'm going to hold those, and now I'm going to be a millionaire. Like, no, I bought $40,000 properties in Birmingham. I'm selling them now for $180,000. But the people who live in Birmingham, Alabama, can't even afford the $180,000 house I'm selling. It's investors, right? So the market has changed. The game has completely changed in real estate. I recommend, like, people really need to understand, I need you to protect the house that you live in now if you're a renter. I need you to go from a renter to a homeowner because you need a place to stay to leverage against you becoming homeless, right? You got to, like, corporations are buying real estate around the world. That's why the prices are where they're at. Because if everything was dictated by the average person paying for something, it would stop at a certain price when the average person can't afford to buy it anymore. The reason why real estate is so high, because it's a clear pattern. There once was a time you can go dig for gold, get a pick and a shovel. When you started building wealth with gold, government came along and said, we want to manage the gold, and now we're going to give you paper tinder. There once was a time you could buy land and strike it rich by finding oil. But what happened? Corporations came along and said, nope, we got the land, we got the oil. Same thing is happening with real estate. Corporations are buying real estate, and now real estate is turning into an unaffordable commodity for the average person to be able to buy. Average person cannot afford to buy real estate now. So what I recommend people do is you need to understand there's a reason why the rent's high and real estate is high, because the whole purpose is to make the next generation of home buyers not home buyers. They want you to be renters. If you look at all the big developments that's going up right now, you see signs that say for lease. You used to see buildings going up and they would say condos for sale.
Yeah.
Now you say everything's for lease because the thing is to take away from your generation the power of home ownership and equity, now make you a forever renter. Now you're forever paying rent. And now you're not allowed to think properly. Don't you know if you're worried about your rent going up and having a place to live and now this, you're not able to become a focused individual to be able to create wealth the way you want to? Where's the equity growth? All the people who bought real estate like myself in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, we got equity. We took the equity. We starting businesses. We handing it down.
Yeah.
Your generation can't buy real estate. What are you handing down? What are you creating? What are you leaving them? See what I mean? And now you look at the homeless situations that's going on now throughout the whole United States. New York, Atlanta, California, San Diego, Texas. Homeless rates are astronomical number, and they're just putting billions to solve the problems, but nothing's coming out of it. They don't want nothing to come out of it. See, the objective is to make sure that they have people conditioned where you need them. You need housing, but you need to be able to have a job. Jobs are not going to be here because technology is overruling the jobs. And now you look at the number of jobs that are gone and the number of corporations that are becoming trillion-dollar corporations. It's not just because of their assets. It's because they're laying off thousands of people, and now that salary is going on to the books. Like your generation, I really feel sorry for, because you guys are coming in inheriting trillions of dollars worth of debt that the government and my generation of people had the opportunity to take advantage of by getting all these loans, refinancing, buying real estate. So you're in a tough spot. So one thing when I sit down to do interviews, I don't want nobody to sit there and think that, oh, it's all good, because no, it's not all good no more. You know, I want people to hear my story, to realize, and I want them to say, damn, that was a time. Like my dad's story, it was a time. My story, it's a time, but it's not this time. So I need to give you new information. I need to give you new data. I need to spark the mind of your generation to go, Storm just told me they trying to make me a forever renter. What I'm going to do? I need to stop paying rent. I need to figure out how I'm not stop paying rent and get kicked out. I need to figure out how I can own something, either partner with somebody, master group economics, get me a apartment, a 4-unit, something like that. Find somebody with good credit. 3 of my friends, we get a 4-unit. We live in that one apartment, rent the other 3 out. Don't none of us move until the next one get a multi-unit. Don't the next, if I could live out of state or if I could live here, because the sacrifices you make now are going to be the easiest ones you try to make if you try to make these when you get older. There's a saying, you can eat ramen noodle now and just build up and sacrifice, or you could eat ramen noodles when you old, when you didn't sacrifice when you were young. The choice is yours, but ramen noodles come in one way or another. You feel me? So we got to think that way. So I'm not trying to I'm not trying to just put a damper on people. No, I want you to understand that when I'm sitting and when I'm talking, I'm telling a story, but I'm telling you a story that's 20 years old. I need to give you the new story now.
Hey, business owners, what if I told you that for just 90 cents a day, you could get access to $45,000 in business funding? I just launched my credit mastery community, where inside you're going to be getting exclusive access to our in-depth training program worth tens of thousands of dollars that's going to teach you the exact strategies you need on how to restore your credit and on how to properly structure your business. You're also going to be getting access to a financial consultant with over a decade of experience in the funding space that's going to be working with you to reach your financial goals in half the time it would take if you were to do it on your own. And we're going to be providing you 2 coaching calls a week where we're going to teach you the exact banks that you need to go to get access to anywhere between $50,000 to $100,000 in business funding. This is the same community that helped Pat access $50,000 in funding from Chase, help Alvin get $8,000 in funding from Amex, help Matt boost his credit score by over 150 points, and help Donna delete a bankruptcy from her credit report. So if you're interested, click the link above or below the video to join now, and we'll see you on the other side of success. Let's go, family.
You're not the only real estate investor I've sat down and who has said that. The market has changed and times have changed, and it is important for especially newer and aspiring investors to understand this, right? And hearing from individuals like yourself who have been on both sides of the coin, where the market was before and where the market is now. So if I'm an aspiring investor, you said something key in your soliloquy. You said how a big turning point for you was investing out of state.
Yep.
Most aspiring investors that are probably in big markets like the ones we're in now, whether it's in New York or California or Florida, if they're looking to get started in out-of-state investing, what does that process now look like?
Now, for me, it was very easy. I went online, went to the school of Google to find out about out-of-state investing in property management. Because once I had my own real estate in New York, I didn't want to be a landlord. I learned about property management companies managing properties. I said, oh, shit, you mean I could get properties, have somebody else manage it, collect the rent, and I just get money? Change my life around. I bought that first property in Indiana for $4,000 with an $8,000 down payment. So I took $8,000, bought a $40,000 property, tenant occupied, didn't do no repairs, no fixing, no flipping, none of that stuff. It was getting $800 a month from Section 8. And my mortgage was like $200. So I'm cash flowing $600 a month, which is like $7,200 a year from an $8,000 down payment. I'm in New York working. I said, shit, I can do this over and over again.
Yeah.
So I just went buying more and more properties. I started realizing I'm going to take this money from work, do this, start sitting down, talking to other people, partnering, buying more and more real estate. And that's the equivalent of changing what really changed my life once I start buying those assets. But as you look at it now in the game today, you can't buy $40,000, $60,000 properties. I bought properties in Milwaukee, Indianapolis, Cleveland, Alabama, Chicago, Florida, like Georgia, like literally everywhere. And I've never went to see none. I've probably seen 2 of the properties out of the 43 properties I've owned. And I've sold 31 of those properties as of a month ago. Clearing my portfolio.
Clearing your portfolio. Okay.
Yeah.
So with all the different, you talked about how it's much different now. Another thing you talked about as well, which is interesting, you talked about wanting to be an investor but not wanting to be a landlord. And in studying your story, I know you've been very intentional about a lot of the hires you've made in your business to make sure that you don't have to do a lot of the landlording that comes with real estate, especially with having out-of-state portfolio. What are some, when we talk about building out that team and bringing on the right people into our real estate business, what are some of those key hires that you've made in your business to make it to where you could focus more on being an investor and less on being a landlord?
What you need is, especially in real estate, you need property managers. Find you a property manager first in the state where you want to buy. First thing is key. I only bought tenant-occupied properties. That still holds to today. I will tell people, find you a property in a B-class area, not a C. The level of the alphabet's based on how good the quality of the area is.
Okay.
It's A, B, C, and D. I would not buy a D. I would not even buy a C or a C+. I'm looking in B areas where people have jobs that won't be impacted by things like, if another coronavirus was the start, or inflation. I want people who work, civil servants, bus drivers, sanitation, things of that nature. Like a lot of properties that I sold 31 of our properties because they're in endangered areas. People have jobs, for example, working as cashiers, working in supermarkets, working in pharmacies, Uber drivers. These jobs are not going to exist. Like you look now, Waymo, Google has Waymo, which is a driverless car share. Uber's going to be, like Uber drivers are going to be non-existent. You look at Tesla. He now has a driving share that's going to be launching where your Uber car, when you're not using it, it can go get fares and drive around and collect fares like a car share and make money. So when you start, you have to, my people, start thinking 10 years ahead. Stop thinking about next week. Stop thinking about next month. Stop thinking about 3 years from now. Stop thinking about partying in Cancun. Stop thinking about going on. Like, you got to start thinking about, what does 5 years from now look like for me?
Yeah.
If you, and the best way I can summarize, you need to start looking at what the next generation is going to do. Not even what your generation is doing, because they already planned out what the future is going to look like. You know, for me, when I start realizing that digital was changing, like money was evolving, I was always into tech. So I was always interested in where things were going. Like, I'm going to give you an analogy. Like, my dad, he grew up, he had a wallet. When I grew up, I had a wallet, then I got a cell phone. My kids, they didn't have a wallet. They had a cell phone with an ID and credit card information. Now, my grandkids, what do you think they're going to have? They're not even going to have a cell phone. They're going to have something else that has ID, digital currency, which won't be dollars. When you start thinking like that, you're going to start investing like that. And if you look, you see it right now. You see the different version of glass lenses coming out with all kind of stuff in it. Cell phones are not going to be around within the next 10 years. You have to start looking at where things are heading. And I'm going to tell people this, and you're going to hear it. And you're probably not going to expect this kind of information, but I love to study this stuff. You have to think about quantum computing. Right. All this stuff where the world is going, where cars are going to be driving autonomously. You're going to have everybody using this kind of device and this kind of AI. You can't do that with regular computers, with just regular bit coding with 0101. Quantum computing is the next phase. Microsoft just spent $40 billion to catch up with what's going on in quantum. Google just announced Willow, their first quantum chip. If you start thinking like that, investing in these companies, you're going to be rich. But you can't sit around saying, I'll figure it out later. You're in the biggest and final wealth transition you're going to get. You had the cotton era, the cotton era, slave era with cottons that we weren't privy to that. You had the cotton gin, which was machinery that took away the picking of the cotton for the slaves, which now that's another story where the slaves, they wanted them to vote, and Abraham Lincoln and all that stuff. So then you had, after that, you had the still era, the still. Then you had the railroad wealth being by Rockefeller and all of these guys. Then you had the industrial area with the buildings going on. You know, now you had the computer, the tech era come in. You have this final era. This is it for us. If you don't find your way to build the wealth now in this era and start reading more, stop scrolling more, start realizing social media is the tool to dumb you down. Start realizing that a lot of these shows, and I know this ain't your show, there's a lot of podcasts and TV shows geared towards making us more dumb, to have us caught up in relationships. Who's going to pay half? Who should you date? Who should you this? The dumbest shit in the world, but we are the ones that they're talking about, and we've fallen into this, and we're not thinking about all this technology that's happening. Because when we talk, it's all about, oh, did you see that? Did you hear about what he said? Who dating who this and that? While the other people, other cultures watch and laugh at us, watching us in these shows, giggling and laughing, and that message is now reverberating in a young black girl's mind about her boyfriend needs to have this, he needs to drive that, or some dude is like, my girl needs to do this, do that. That's not how it really worked. I remember the stories of my grandmother telling me how she met my grandfather, how my mother telling me how she met my dad. These kids ain't getting that. There's a reason why the music now with female rappers are so dominant. It's not because they nice. I repeat, it's not because they're nice. It's because they're the closest influence to these young girls, and those young girls give birth to the kids, and now that's the first contact to the young kids. That's why the shit is bubbling like that. Music was once used to help us push through slavery. Music was used to help through the civil rights movement. Songs like War, Fight the Power, James Brown. All this was used, and when they realized that, they wanted to own all the music. It's the reason why you look back in the 1990s, publishing companies ran around buying all the publishing to major artists. All of it. Astronomical amounts of money, because they knew we want to be able to control it, take it away, put it here, have them listen to that. Now we only going to sign these type of artists because we are the ones in jeopardy. If you take our culture out of everything that's taking place, there'll be nothing here to enjoy. If you take us out of basketball, baseball. You take us out of music. You take us out of movies. You take us out of anything. Once we got into golf, we got into tennis, we got into hockey, which we invented hockey. That's another story. But once we started doing all that, shit changed.
Yeah.
And the people with money realized we got to stop them from growing because they're only one generation away from becoming the smartest people in the world. They already became president. Now we're going to if we keep it up at this pace, they're going to become scientists. They're going to become the greatest computing people on the planet. They're going to become trillionaires, and we are going to be in trouble. Now we're sitting around arguing about who should pay half of a goddamn bill or half of the rent and not realizing those shows are used against us. And social media like Instagram, which once allowed people like me and other people to teach. We used to be on there 2, 3 in the morning going live, teaching about real estate, fixing your credit, how to get funding, how to do all this. Now we go in there now. I can't get 5 people to go live. They don't let my shit live. They don't let none of us live. You know why? Because we helped blow them up already. If we were to create, and there's another damn thing I got to get into, my brother, forgive me, right?
Let's do it.
We create something, we've been taught not to support each other. I know a lot of people know now, but this is something I've always knew. Do y'all realize Tubi is owned by Fox? Do you realize Fox is owned by Rupert Murdoch? You know his objective? Tubi took all our black content and said, yeah, bring us anything. We don't care if it's trash or whatever. Just give us all your content. Now look where Tubi is at. It's one of the biggest independent channels on the world where people watch, worth billions. What he's going to do, he's going to end up selling it for billions. But if me and you would have started Tubi, and we would have been on there, yeah, come support our channel, bring us your content, people would have saw our black face and said, that shit ain't never going to work. We don't believe in our own people. But that's not our fault. That's by design, because that's what they want us to see. The image you're always going to see of us is being either sports or some kind of crook, criminal, something along that lines. And I know we got a selected few who've played other parts, but I mean the majority. And when you look at where the kids now, what they have to look at as a reflection of imagery is everything. Yeah. When you put a mirror in front of somebody and ask them, matter of fact, I'm going to do that now. Because I never forget when a gentleman told me this. He said, I want you to close your eyes. He says, a young man gets shot. Ambulance pick him up, rushing him into the hospital. He's bleeding out. They put him on the table. Doctor rushes in. They want to take care of him. Doctor says, we got to get him into surgery. What color's the doctor? What color's the kid? That's the kind of shit they've been doing to us. So I'm quite sure we both came up with the same answers on what color we thought they would be. Go ahead, my brother. You can get back to your questions. I don't mean to throw you off.
No, you're not throwing me. I enjoy conversations like this because once again, all of it ties in. Whether what real estate and everything, it all ties into what you're saying because ultimately if the ultimate goal is building wealth, we have to talk about all angles of the conversation, which is why I appreciate what you're saying right now because, of course, there's the tangible of, finding property and all these different things. But everything that you're saying, when we talk about the mindset of what's going on and what's keeping us from getting where we need to get to as a people, I appreciate it. So you're not throwing me off at all. I guess for me, one of the questions I want to ask is we talked about this off camera, you speak with a lot of passion and a lot of conviction, especially when we talk about this subject matter. But I also see that whenever I see you on platforms like this, speaking a lot about, everything you just broke down now about where we should be and where we could be as a people if we just got past a lot of those mental blocks of what's working against us. I also see that you always have your brand, which is Employed Millionaire. Yeah. Even still, as you've amassed all the success you have and where you are now, what is it about? What does the Employed Millionaire mean in relation to a lot of what you just talked about in the work you're doing to help our people overcome, where we are in relation to where we should be?
Yeah, see, Employed Millionaire has nothing to do with money. Like I have a lot of people, Employed Millionaire, actually I was on a plane and this guy says, Employed Millionaire, that's an oxymoron. How can you be employed and you be a millionaire? I said, that's the point of it. You can't be.
Okay.
So you have to now realize, how can I be employed and be a millionaire mentally? It all started with me believing that I could be a millionaire. Because when you go to work, all you believe is what you are by the end of your salary. If somebody say, okay, I got a job, and you be like, okay, how much you worth? You start calculating that on Bob, how much you make. Man, I make $100,000 a year. So that's a number based on the job you have. Mm-hmm. But I can't think about Verizon paying me $100,000. I had to be like, I'm worth $2-3 million. This job is what's holding me back. But what I got to do is take my job salary, because the job is my first business partner. The job is investing in me to take this money and go do something with it and stop coming back begging a job for a handout. It's the biggest thing we get confused with. We go to work 40 hours, 60 hours, 80 hours, get this money, go pay bills first, and then pay yourself last. There's a book, Pay Yourself First. It's Profits First. Pay yourself. You got to start paying yourself first. You need to understand, once you start calculating that, you're going to do better. And then stop taking your tax return and balling the fuck out with your money. You got to take those tax returns, and now you got to invest. We get money, and see, the biggest problem is also we don't know how to get away from people that don't know how to give us information that's going to help you grow and evolve. If all you do is hang around a group of people that work and everybody's looking forward to getting their tax return to go to Mexico, then that's what you're going to hear. But if you hang around other people who are now talking about, yo, I'm working, but when I take my money, I'm going to invest in this, or I'm going to buy this, or I'm going to do that. See, now that helps. That gives you a different way to look at it. But just because you grew up with somebody from the sandbox, it doesn't mean they need to be with you all the way through. I say there's 3 boxes you have to check on your way to wealth. There's the sandbox, your childhood relationships. There's the lunch box, people that you met through work. And there's the owner's box, people who are not going to make it there with you. You have to check those 3 boxes. And a lot of times, there's not one person who's going to make all 3 of those boxes with you. But you have to make the sacrifice along the way. You are bigger than what you are. The main thing that's most likely holding you back is the people around you.
Yeah.
That's really like the thing. Change is the hardest thing to do until you're forced. And then you'll be like, damn, I got to do it.
Say that again. Change
is the hardest thing to do until you're forced to do it. You know right now you may have to change. Right? Like people know they need to change and stop eating sugar. Until the doc say, I got to cut your foot off. You're like, damn, I got to change now. They're going to cut my foot off. When you could have changed before it got down to cutting your foot off. See what I'm saying? We wait till we forced to do change, and then we change. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, you definitely did. And I'm curious to know, even for you, because you also talked about the importance of you meeting people along your way to wealth and how not everyone is going to check off every single one of those boxes. I think that's important, too, because even for a lot of people who are watching right now, it's important for them to understand that a lot of the people that they grew up with in the environments they grew up with, if they're serious about becoming wealthy, a lot of those same individuals aren't going to make it with them to the other side, which is unfortunate, but it's just the truth.
Nope. It's not unfortunate.
Break that down. Why isn't it?
It's a necessity. It's a necessity. That's like you saying, man, I wish I could still wear the same size shoe I wore when I was 6 years old.
That's true, yeah.
That shit is painful, bro. Has to happen. Your feet have to grow. You have to get a new pair of sneakers. You have to know what a shoe is. You have to know eventually. You get what I'm saying? So no, it's not unfortunate. It's a necessity. Everybody around you must change and must go. In order for you to go and grow, you have to go and grow. It's a must. It's not the fact that you have to get away from all these people around you, right? And I love to tell people, no, I got to stop hanging around these people because they ain't helping me do nothing. I said, no, you just got to change. Because when you change, those people are not going to want to be around you. So they're going to go, he changed. He changed. When I start doing what I want to do, you know, like if you know the story about real estate, I actually wanted to buy real estate back in 1994. And I took 2 friends with me to go look at the brownstones on Bergen in Washington. This old man wanted to sell me 2 brownstones for $350,000. Anybody who knows Bergen in Washington, those houses are worth $4 million right now. He wanted to sell me 2 of them for $350,000. And I met him through another friend of mine. He was like, I like you, man. I'm selling my place. I'm getting too old. I always do the old voices and shit. So, you know, I get over there and I took 2 of my friends and I said, but this is when crack, it was drugs. And so my friends were like, I would not buy these houses. I'm like, bro, I buy these 2 houses. You know, I live in one, the renter pay the mortgage. I'm going to own 2 houses. Forget all the drugs. Like I said, those houses are worth $4 million today because I let the fact that I was trying to get like acknowledgement, confirmation from people who didn't know real estate. But it's not their fault. See, it was my fault. My friends was doing what they thought was best for me. They was looking out for me like, yo, bro, don't do it, man. It's bad. We don't want you to put your money into it, but they had no knowledge. So when I finally got into real estate and did buy the property in 99, that's when I actually took a real estate friend of mine who was into real estate. And he said, Slum is the best thing you could ever do. The area's changing. This is happening. The rent's going to pay for that. Different conversation for the people I had around me. Things won't change until you change. And then when I got into that, before I put a button on this, once I start changing and getting into real estate, doing that stuff, those two friends, they left out of my life. Because it's like, nah, he on some other shit right now. Mm-hmm. See, I changed. I ain't have to get away from them. They wanted to get away from me.
So when you were making that transition from being in your 9-to-5 to going all in and being a full-time investor, when we talk about changing your environment and changing the proximity, do you remember what those conversations were like with other friends and family when you let them know, like, hey, I think I'm about to stop with this Verizon thing and just go all in?
Nah, it wasn't no conversation. No, see, understand, not having a job is something that most black people can never understand because we were only taught to have a job. Mm. If I would have told, it's like the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. Like if I would have told a white friend I had and be like, yo, I'm thinking about getting out of work, his mindset, probably his dad on a business would have been like, yeah, man, you're fucking smart. Mm-hmm. Start your own business. Mm-hmm. You see? But if I tell that shit to one of my friends, they're going to be like, yo, you got a good-ass job. What do you think? Because all we know is a job. Yeah. So that's why I would not waste my time to have that conversation. Because they would not get it. So we got to understand something too, and I want to share that, now that you brought that up. I want us to look in this area where we're at. You look at Fort Greene, look at Park Slopes, look at all these areas, right? So I start with Bed-Stuy. Bed-Stuy, one of the biggest crime areas back in the 80s, 90s. And that's because it was lack of jobs. Once jobs came in, they started opening up malls, they opened up Dumbo, they gave everybody jobs, the neighborhoods got safe. They started arresting everybody and be like, okay, cool. But they gave us jobs. Once they gave us jobs, the areas got better. It started getting gentrified. The people that moved in, they wasn't coming there to get jobs. They would come in to buy brownstones and to start businesses, or they worked for business, or they owned businesses. So now, let's fast forward now. The area's worth a lot of money. If you take the jobs out of Bed-Stuy and all these people who had jobs, most of these jobs now are the Ubers, the Amazon warehouses that they got in Fort Greene and East New York. If you take those jobs away, what the hell you think is going to happen to the area now? It's going to go back to crime. And who's the first people that's going to fill that raft? Who's going to become meat for the wolves? The new gentrification people who moved in. See, one of the biggest problems in our hoods all over the world, they gave us jobs, but they didn't say, if y'all work these jobs for 5 years, what we're going to do is create a program, give y'all mortgages. So now y'all can buy houses in y'all areas. They gave us jobs, but they didn't give us opportunity for home ownership. That's why my biggest fear in our neighborhoods of when these jobs are gone, how many more of us going to go to jail? How many of these people that did raise our value? Because they made the $1 million brownstones, not us in Bed-Stuy. So if they say we up and we moving out, they're going to tell other people in the neighborhood, and now those people in the neighborhood going to say they up and leaving. Yeah. So now for the black family who owns a brownstone that's worth 1.7 or 2 million, now they finally try to sell it. The word is out on the wire. Oh, y'all area getting bad. Now they stuck with a $2 million house they can't sell, or they got to sell it for pennies. See, this thing doesn't happen in areas like over here, Park Slope. It doesn't happen in Dyker Heights. It's not happening in Bay Ridge. You know why? Because they're able to sell houses to their neighbors. They're able to sell houses to the dad across the street who want to buy a house for his son. We needed ownership in everything. And my biggest fear is they're taking away the power of the ownership. So in the future, which is very much around the corner, if you take away just home ownership alone, that leaves you to own nothing as a youth, very little to own. Mm-hmm. What are you going to own? A car? What are you going to own? A business? What kind of business you're going to start? Like it really, most of the wealth, even from me, I started from real estate that put me into this place of being able to do things I'm doing. You ask a lot of families to start from real estate. Like where's it going to start for you, your children, if you're not able to buy them some assets to build equity and wealth? So my biggest fear is once you take away the word ownership, we're done. What are you going to own? What are you going to own? And I always tell everybody this, and I'm going to give you back the floor. I don't want anybody telling me that they shouldn't sell grandmama house. I don't want anybody telling me they shouldn't sell a family heirloom. You need to sell grandmama's house. So let me tell you why. And I watched this firsthand. There was a family, grandmother died, bought the house for $83,000, it's worth $1.2 million. You had the 3 siblings fighting over the house. One wanted to fix it up and live in it. The other one wanted to sell it as is. The other one wanted to renovate it and sell it. So you know what they agreed to? All right, they agreed to fix it up and rent it out. So now they $4,000 for 3 kids. That's like $1,000-something each kid. Now, the problem with that is, if you would have sold the house for $1.2 million, y'all take that money and get educated. Get educated. And now what you do after that, you buy more assets. You get a living trust. You start putting life insurance for the family. You start creating the legacy. See, the problem isn't selling grandmama a house. The problem is not being educated on what to do with the money from selling grandmama's house. Anybody who watches a show called American Pickers, you watch these 2 guys ride around the United States looking at all this stuff and all these families. Y'all, one black family I've ever seen in my life. But they go around looking at all these families who had Ford T1s and collected cars since the 1800s, all these paintings, all this stuff. And I always say to myself, and I want everybody to do the same thing when they start talking about past wealth, what were black people doing in the 1930s that we didn't have this? What were black people doing in the 1800s? We were either Jim Crow or slaves. We didn't start owning, let me slow that down. We were either in the Jim Crow era, coming out of slavery. So we didn't have the opportunity to own all of these things that other people have. You know, the Indian motorcycles, all these things that these guys buy. Ownership for us didn't start till the 60s. And our biggest thing really that we, majority of us in the 60s, we started buying Cadillacs. Black people saved the Cadillac industry. That was our pride. So if you have something, you can now turn that into value in the dollar. You need to turn it into that. Just get educated and create the things I've talked about. Life insurance, living trust, policies, talk to your kids, build out that empire. But don't think that all of a sudden you're supposed to keep everything and never sell it, because that's what we were taught back in the days. Don't sell nothing. The reason why, because our grandparents coming from slavery or their parents from slavery. So, no, you keep everything. But that was their time. Our time is to start building wealth with what you have.
38%. That's the amount of entrepreneurs that are struggling to get their business funded because their personal credit isn't where it needs to be. Now, you can look into alternatives like corporate credit cards and vendor accounts, but the truth is the easiest way to get access to 5 to 6 figures in funding is to have good personal credit. As an entrepreneur, the stress of trying to build a successful business is already enough as is. So why work harder than you need to when you can simplify the funding process by getting your credit restored? My company, Take Off Financial, has served hundreds of entrepreneurs just like you by helping them avoid the pain of getting denied for business funding by restoring their personal credit, and we want you to be the next one. So click the link above or below this video to secure your free consultation, and let's put you in position to get you funding that your business needs.
You said something else which is also key. I hear I would call it a buzzword I hear a lot when we talk about wealth, but very, very rarely do I ever hear people break it down, and I would love to have that conversation about it with you as well. You mentioned a living trust. I know that's also been a very key part of what you've been able to do on your end. And it's something that I think our people still don't have a very good understanding of what it is, how it works, and why it's so important to wealth building. Speaking from your own personal experience, first and foremost, what is a living trust? And why is it so important to long-term wealth building in the Black community?
Yeah, living trust is the tool that helps you pass down things many years throughout your generations. There's a will and there's a living trust. A will simply states that when you die, you give people stuff. That's it. Give people stuff. But a living trust states that when you have these things, you break it up and you can give it to them at this age, and you can put it in this account, and it does these. Like a living trust starts speaking forever from the grave, and it even starts speaking now. You can take your house, put it in living trust, and now the beneficiaries of the living trust, they own it, but you still manage the property. Now, if anyone tries to sue you, you don't own the house. It's in the living trust. See, the biggest example, like just to tell you where I come from with this whole thing, when I started buying real estate, I was like, yeah, let me get a will. Then my attorney, she said to me, you need to start thinking about living trust. I said, huh? I said, all right, let me go look, check it out. I like to read shit. So what I did was I read the Rockefeller Trust from 1934. When everybody heard about a living trust, it's like Rockefeller Trust. So I went and Googled that. I read his trust from 1934, blew me away. Then I read a book called What Would the Rockefellers Do?
Yeah.
When I read that book, my life changed, bro. I said, yo, we can do it. And we don't even, see, what people don't understand is they think Rockefeller created all this wealth because he had money. Yeah, he had money. But the way that he passed it down to 13 generations and counting is because he had life insurance policies on everybody. So think about it. You have a living trust. Now you have a life insurance policy on you for $1 million. Inside your living trust, you put in there another living trust for your son, and now you state that your living trust, your son only could get half. So that's $500,000. But your grandchild, he gets the other half. So now, unfortunately, we all pass away. You pass away, your son, your $1 million policy, he only gets $500,000. The other $500,000 goes into a brokerage account for your grandson.
Right.
Your grandson, he only gets it when he turns 21. So the $500,000 is sitting in a brokerage account until he turns 21. Let's say 21 years, $500,000, 6% interest. So that $500,000 turns into about $1.3 million. But now what your father would do now, he would have a living trust for his grandson, which would be your great grandson. So this is how Rockefeller called the cascading effect. So your grandson, he would get paid from your living trust. And now your grandson would get paid twice from your son's living trust.
And it just snowball effect.
There you go.
Okay. I actually never knew that. That's crazy.
See what I'm saying? And that has nothing to do with wealth.
Right.
That's from having a life insurance policy. See, the most valuable thing on you is the air you breathe until the day you stop breathing. But we think it's taboo. Like, I make sure I got life insurance policies. My children are going to have them. I'm going to set up the living trust. My living trust, like, I'm literally readjusting my living trust now. I have 2 of them, but I have businesses. I have a lot. So I said, the average living trust, people can actually start those off around $3,000, $6,000. It's not that much work. But the goal is we go, oh, you do it for me. We always find somebody do something. Yo, can you do it?
Yeah.
Can you do it? Sit down and read a book. Read a motherfucking book. Read a book. You see what I'm saying? Like, you don't even need books no more. Just go to YouTube.
Yeah.
And just watch videos. And another thing, you know, I'm going to throw this out there too. No, I said.
No, you go.
Cook. I don't want to take it to another topic.
No. Go ahead.
I need us to understand something. You need to start learning key things.
Talk to me.
I need us to learn how to trade.
Break down why.
I need you. I don't even care if you don't trade options or stock. Just know how to trade. You know, we had the CEO of that United Health company got killed. I'm not gonna say assassinated. They killed me. When unfortunately people that's not black die, it's assassinated. It's all kind of other stuff. He got murdered. He got murked.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm with you.
Oh, he was assassinated. I was like, y'all some funny people. So anyway, I wake up 6:30 in the morning. I'm doing trading, right? Trading options and doing leaps and stuff like that because my portfolio needs to be expanded. So I wake up 6:30 in the morning. I'm like, damn, homie got killed. First thing popped in my brain was, how long could a company survive without a CEO? I shorted the company. Went right down on my computer, put out some shorts on the company. I made like 5 digits shorting that. I wish I would have took $300,000 worth of shorts on that company and made millions of dollars. Because you know how many people did who are like in this space of trading? Like, I don't want to use color, but I have to in certain situations. Very few black people are trading. So I'm very few of those people who said I'm gonna short the company. But I bet a lot of white traders who are in that trading space said, damn, that's messed up, but how can I make money off of that? Because it's not you making money on his death, you're making money off the fact that the company won't be able to survive that long. There'll be a moment of confusion without the CEO. And damn sure the stock went from 608, it rode out for the day. I said, oh, tomorrow it's gonna fall. I said, went from 608, 480, 470, 440, it dropped. I said, let me cash out and get out of here with my couple of $1,000. I just was mad that I didn't throw a couple of $100,000 on there. And like the Mike Tyson and Buster Douglas fight, just in case Mike get knocked out. So we need to start thinking about trading because you need to be able to say, I need to start owning the things I'm using because my job I have is in limited demand. Everything that you're using. You need to have Apple, you need to have Google, you need to understand Tesla's not just a car company, it's a data company. You need to understand NVIDIA, you need to understand AMD, you need to understand quantum computing and all those chips that's out there, those chip companies, QUBT, RTIN, I think it is. You need to understand where it's going. You need to start investing while they're low. You need to start investing in digital currency, because digital currency is something that's inevitable. It's going to change the world, and it's happening. But I need you to understand, don't get caught up in the hype when you hear about Bitcoin, XRP, when it's those other little ones that these companies are buying now, making their statement and investing in, and then you will hear about it later after they cemented their investments in there for pennies. And the problem with us, we don't want to buy nothing when it's cheap. Everybody know about, I've been in XRP with Ripple. I've been in that for like 7-8 years. Back when it was 6-7 cents. My account is very well nice. Very well nice. It's nice.
Yeah.
Right? But my thing is this. Everybody's talking about XRP and Ripple, and I'm going to buy me a Bitcoin and all this. I'm like, why? If I want to send you money right now, either I got to Zelle it to you, I got to Cash App it to you, I got to Venmo it to you. Money doesn't travel by itself. Let's put that in digital. If I wanted to send you a Bitcoin, if I wanted to send you XRP, don't I need something to send it between us?
Yes, sir.
Blockchain. Start learning about the travel device. Start learning about the car that's going to get it between the both of us. That's the most valuable thing, not the asset. You get it?
I'm with you.
That's not, so I want people to look up something called VeChain. VeChain is a blockchain that BMW just invested in, Walmart invested in, UFC just invested in. A couple of multi-billion-dollar companies just invested in this company here. You know how much that company's like to invest in that company right now? It's not even 1 cent yet. But you got billion-dollar companies investing in it. I tell people about it, but you know why? Because it ain't $1,000 yet. We only find value in the number instead of finding value in the usage. The value is in the usage. These billion-dollar companies are investing in this thing, but we want to sit around and wait till it get to $20, $30, $1,000, and they go, man, I'm going to get me some. Well, you're late now. So that's what I wanted to throw
Which I've even heard as well. I've heard, I forget who I heard the same from, but there's a saying that says, if by the time you've heard about the next hot thing, the people with the true wealthy individuals who actually had money to invest in it you're pretty much missed the mark, if you will.
They're on to the next one.
They're on to the next one.
And I want to give a real credit to my guy, Marketing Guru, and my other guy, Tall Guy Tycoon, because those are my crypto dudes.
Okay.
I do not pretend that I know. I shut the hell up and listen to guys like them.
So then now that makes this conversation interesting, right? Because with your background being in real estate and having a lot of newer investors who are listening, does a lot of what you're talking about, does it become a matter of real estate and investing in tech and all these other different industries, or is it real estate or investing in these other respective industries? If I'm starting from ground zero.
It's everything, because that's every investor. There's no investor that's into one thing. You might only know them for the one thing, but they have a portfolio of other things. They have a financial advisor who tells them, no, we're going to diversify your portfolio. Like, that's just how it is. There's no, you think just like, pick any real estate tycoon. That's all he does. You think he don't have money in other places and other things, but you just know him for that. You know somebody for shooting a jump shot, but he has other things. You know this guy for race car driving, but his money is invested other places. Yeah. So real estate also, I would tell people real estate is getting way too expensive. It's only going to keep going up. You need to start looking into REITs, real estate investment trusts. There's real estate investment trust, and I'm not going to give you any. I want you to do your homework on yourself. I don't want to tell nobody and just go, oh, shit, he gave us a cheat code. No, do some goddamn work, right? This is what it is. You got to understand that these tech companies are going to need warehouses. There's REITs that's all about warehouses. The Amazon centers, they don't own them. They renting these. So now there are warehouses that's all about tech companies to store their chips, store their processors, store their servers. Go find out which one that is, because I invested in those guys. There's other REITs that own not all, but a majority of casinos in Las Vegas. Las Vegas had its biggest amount of return during COVID because people went to gamble.
Right.
You can invest in these REITs, and they give some of the best dividends. So if you can't own any real estate, the main real estate I need you to own is the one that's over your head you live in. And if you want to own others, get partners to do that. But start investing in you some REITs, and you can invest in real estate without having to be the owner of the real estate. Makes sense.
You also mentioned a book that was pivotal for you in your journey. You talked about the book, What Would the Rockefellers Do? And the work you did of actually reading the Rockefellers' actual trust. I'm curious to know, in listening to you speak, it's very clear that you have been very active in studying wealth over generations of time. Are there any principles you've gotten from studying wealthy individuals like the Rockefeller family and beyond that you are imparting now? Because you have people that you coach, people that you mentor, people that you are helping to put in position to also make millions and change the trajectory of the family. So what are some of those principles that you've gotten from studying those wealthy individuals like the Rockefellers that you're transferring now into the people that you're mentoring and coaching?
Wow. That you have to surround yourself with like-minded people who are going to do it. It might sound foreign to you because you're most likely learning from somebody who doesn't look like you. They're not black. They could be Asian, white, Indian. There's very few of us that we can go back reading these stories and understanding the power of wealth. And a lot of the times, if there's two gentlemen that I can't remember the name. He was just on Shark Tank, man, and I sent him a message. This dude is so powerful. I can't think his name, but he's a good guy to follow and listen to him. But these books and stuff that I've read about, what I want to tell you is listen to the audio. Like books like Who Not How, Richest Man in Babylon, Tax-Free Wealth by Tom Wheelwright. That book I read every year. It's a must. Tom Wheelwright. There's several other books, man. If they pop in my head, I'll mention them. 10X is greater than 2X.
Yeah.
Books like that. Like you have to listen to these audios. Like, I don't even like saying books all the time because when you say the word book, it's like a virus to some people and shit. They tune out. Yo, read this. Oh, you want me to read? So I just always say, listen to audios. And audios will change your life. But what I can tell you is once you get to the point of digesting so much information, stop.
Why?
You will become the most smartest person who's not doing anything. Like I know people who went to college and learned everything, but once they got out, they didn't know how to do anything else because they didn't know. They were great students. Don't become a great student. Like if you start listening to these audiobooks, start implementing at the same time. Because the more information you get, the more, I wouldn't say confused, but you'll try to figure out where should I be starting from.
That's true.
That's why implementation is crucial. There comes a certain point where even after you listening to it, you got enough, you're like, I ain't gonna listen to it no more. I'm good. Let me get to work. Because that was me. I'll listen to a lot of stuff and after a while I'll be like, I'm good. I'm gone. I'm off. And then I'll be like, I ain't never finished listening to this. And I'll go back and start listening to it. But you have to start implementing. Don't be that person who just read a bunch of stuff. Because most people who they interviewed them and they done all these things, not done it, but they show this wall of books. This person's life isn't adventurous at all. They didn't travel much. They didn't start a lot of businesses, but they could tell you I've read every book on this wall, but they stay home. You ask them how many places they travel, they might have went 2 or 3. Like I've traveled many places. I have a property in Thailand that I bought. I'm getting ready to go see that. I'm leaving to live internationally. Thailand, Bali, Dominican Republic, Africa. Like I know the growth is outside the United States. United States will not be, United States to me is Rome. Rome is on fire right now. Rome is literally burning, and people don't even realize it. If you look at right now, the administration and what's going on, I don't knock the presidents whoever win, but it's never been geared towards me. I tell people, no matter who won presidency, I had to go to work tomorrow.
Facts.
So y'all sitting around arguing about Kamala and this one and that one. I'm like, my man, don't matter who in there. They both going to lead you down a path that's been premeditated a long time ago. It's just one person's going to get you there faster than the other. My thing that I like to say is, the president is really in control of war and budgets of war. But the United States is a company. Shareholders make decisions. President's the CEO. No matter who won the presidency, I would love to see their face when they took them to that room and opened that door and said, I want to introduce you to the people who really run the country. Because it's not them. The sole purpose of that person there is to be the face. But you need Congress, Senate, all these other people to make decisions to move this company. So I don't get worked up about this stuff here. This political stuff here is another distraction. And black people are only talking points when it's time for somebody to run, but not when they actually get in there. So start worrying about you, yourself, and your household. That's what you need to worry about, not the political party. You need to worry find you a financial party and not a political party.
Love that. Listen, Storm Leroy, I think...
Oh, you done with me already? Dang, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sitting here. We may very well have to do a part 2. There was a lot of layers to this conversation, my brother. And I joked about it beforehand that it was I kind of saw it coming, but you took it to an entirely different level that I honestly and truly didn't see it coming. So I thank you for that.
I appreciate you having me, man.
I appreciate the conviction that you speak with. More importantly, the information that you're giving, because a lot of what you're saying is just preparation for us about not what's coming, but what's already here that a lot of people aren't privy to. And I think that's extremely important. As we begin to close the episode out, what are some parting words that you could leave for individuals who are watching right now?
Sheesh, man. Realize that you are at a time where if you don't do something right now, your kids, your grandkids, they are not going to have the opportunity to do nothing. They're going to look back and go, damn, I wonder what my grandfather was doing when they were selling houses. Mm-hmm. You mean to tell me there was a time when you could have bought a house? You mean to tell me like there was a time when people had jobs working for this company and that company? Like, you mean people used to be driving cars and had a job driving something like Uber used to have drivers and it wasn't automated? There was somebody behind a wheel? Like, you have to think about these things. Mm-hmm. Your life, we were all born to be a sacrifice. It's just, what are you going to sacrifice yourself for? You wasn't born just to be here and be this beacon to the world. You were born to be a sacrifice and then to die and to let somebody else sit around with other people tell a story how great you were. You will plant seeds to grow a tree that you will never probably sit under. That's the goal.
I couldn't have said it better myself. As we close, let the people, of course, know where they can find you, but more importantly, what you have going on as well.
You can find me on, just Google me. I really don't like saying the
Not a social media guy?
platform. I am, you know what I mean? But social media is like...
You go ahead.
Social media is the tool that's being used to divide us and to make us look like fools.
Okay.
It really is. If you scroll, what are you getting? You're getting, like, I don't even follow it, but you get ass shaking, you get the titties, you get all this stuff. And for real talk, though, and I've learned that the algorithm is designed where if you even slow down, they think you like it. Mm-hmm. But it's curiosity. Like, I stop at cat videos now. I get a bunch of cat videos. I stop. So social media is really the tool that's going to separate us and really have us not respecting and hating and fighting against each other. It really, really is. You're seeing more violence on there, more killing, more parties, and now you're numb. You're numb to death. You're numb to seeing somebody with the same color as you getting beat up, getting shot, getting killed. We're numb. But when a dog or animal dies, they will pixelate that or they will stop that before it gets to the gruesome scene, but they will let you see what happens to you. So for me, I have a good amount of followers on social media and you can follow me there. But you could come to my community. I am a millionairemagnet.com or just Google employed millionaire circle community and it'll come up. Like, I'm there with people in my community. We talk, we meet on Thursdays. We teach them how to invest in group economics, invest internationally, invest in apartment buildings. We have a building in Long Beach, California that we bought. A group of us, like 2.5 million, is worth over 3 million now. Group economics in the community. That's my goal, to teach people everything I'm talking about and to stand behind what it is. So I'm very picky about platforms. I'm on YouTube doing a lot of videos. And like what I talk here, I call it Eye of the Storm. I just turn on the mic.
You just go.
And I talk. And it's therapeutic. And I say, this is for me. If y'all want to hang out, hang out. But I might say some stuff that offend. I might be boring. But I got some stuff I need to get off my chest. And then a lot of people hang out and they comment like, oh, man, this was a breath of fresh air. Nobody talks like you. I say, I'm not doing it to impress. I'm doing it because this is the shit we need to hear right now. So just Google me and come meet me on YouTube or in my circle.
Perfectly said. And for everyone that's tapped in and wrapped in this video, make sure, of course, you check out Storm Leroy. And for everyone who's watched, if you haven't already, what are you doing? Take a second, take a minute, take an hour out of your day right here, right now to hit the like button, show this episode some love. But most importantly, tell a friend to come back, watch it again. As always, I'm Marvin Francois. That's Storm Leroy. Y'all have been good. We've been great. This has been amazing. Thank you and God bless. Peace.
Always seek knowledge.
There you go.